Good morning, dear friends, and welcome. Anybody here for the first time? 1, 2, 3. Well, welcome. I hope this turns out to be a life-changing day. For the better. For the better. Well, I went to that meditation center and then everything fell apart. I think he was talking about dukkha, or dookie or something. It all began. So, please remain in your individual silence or turn to a neighbor and tell them something you're grateful for today, please. And introduce yourself. Give them another minute. They're happy. Good morning. Hi.
I was just talking to somebody here.
Yes.
Put parked in.
May I have your attention, please? This is from the neighborhood. Someone has a car that says, "Love every day, coexist." Nice bumper sticker. I have that on my wife's car. I love Cedro Willie. I heart Cedro Willie. And the license plate, 946. You're blocking someone in their driveway. Here's your phone. Here's your phone. Here's your phone. Thank you. Yes. If we did not have, if this church predated all the houses, this was really out in the boonies. And the minister's house, well, it still is next door, actually. So we have, what's it called? We were grandfathered in with the on-street parking. And they never permit this now. So we're very lucky. So please be careful about your parking. And park a block or two away. That's another good way to give the neighbors a bit of a break, especially as we become more successful. And the evenings now, there's classes happening, and so the neighbors they're fine. I go around and I meet them and I talk to them, and they're glad to have good neighbors. Is that coming out to this above? see, it's exactly opposite of what I thought. So please join me in the refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. As we humans have done now for thousands of years, we come together to sit. So we take a comfortably upright posture. And we cease trying to entertain ourselves and to satisfy ourselves through the sense doors. And we practice or emphasize knowing what's happening, mindfulness. And we practice with a great big question mark. What's going on? What's happening in this mind body that I take to be myself? And we exert some effortless effort, some gentle intention to do a practice of some kind, commonly mindfulness of in-breathing and out-breathing. And we sit right in the middle of the soup of our lives. Exactly as they are right now. This breathing, which has been going on since the moment of your birth, happens all by itself. Paying attention to it doesn't, however. That requires some intention and some very gentle, persistent effort. Most likely you've discovered that the mind has other plans, other preoccupations. It's very adept at creating an experience of a past and a future. Mindfulness is so potent, however, that it can illuminate these habits of mind, these trance states. And this illumination always takes place in the present moment. It's waking up. And time and again we can return to the sensations of breathing in and out. Not an image, not an idea or a fantasy, but the actual physical sensations of this body as it breathes in and breathes out. Time and again awakening in this present moment. Meditation is the practice of awakening to what's actually real, to what's actually happening. One of the reasons that most people don't meditate, and sometimes even after beginning, is because of the encounter with dukkha. I was joking earlier about dukkha. This quality of dissatisfaction, unsatisfactoriness, or as Ruth Dennison, my teacher for decades, put it, Dalink, there's always a leak in the canoe. And we can check this in the present moment. Is there a sense of great ease and acceptance and comfort? And sometimes there is. Is there a sense that something's off, something's not right? If only I could get rid of this wandering mind, or this headache, or this heartache, or this bodily imbalance, or this discomfort in my leg. The very first thing that this kind of meditation reveals is this dukkha. And even the very effort to change the mind and make it be more pleasant has this flavor of dukkha. And so it's very helpful to acknowledge that. And that doesn't stop us from coming home to the breath, observing what the mind is doing, observing the dukkha itself. Bringing ourselves into contact with what's true. And in that way, becoming more at peace with our lives as they are. And letting each awakening of the wandering mind, each awakening to the wandering mind, and each returning to the primary training object of the breath, be a living part of the journey. At some point when we sit still like this, discomfort in the body becomes apparent. We habitually move and stretch and change posture all the time. Whenever discomfort arises. But here we use this discomfort as another one of our tools for awakening. When the discomfort is sufficient to interrupt the process of staying home with the breath, we can turn awareness to the discomfort itself, to the suffering that arises likely from disliking the discomfort, to the impatience, to whatever else co-arises with discomfort. And we have much to learn about dukkha, the phenomenon of suffering from discomfort. Each breath can become an invitation to wake up right here, right now, with whatever's happening. Part of the skill of meditation is how we translate it or carry it with us into activity, into our daily performance of our responsibilities and entertainments. So how is it that you move from your formal sitting practice to whatever comes next? I like to take a few moments to inhabit the body more broadly, to notice the feet and legs, the hands and fingers and arms, the buttocks where they press against the chair, the entire torso as it breathes in and out, the neck and the jaw and the cheeks and the scalp. And then the eyes as body, as sensation. Perhaps allowing the eyeballs to rotate some, move around inside their orbit. And then to formulate the intention, to notice the intention, to let the eyes open, and then let that happen, let that operationalize. And be mindful as seeing is born. There was no seeing, and now there is. Forms. A moment ago there were no forms, and then there are forms. And then the mind cognizes them and perhaps names them. We enter the realm of the sighted, seeing. Seeing. Our default position with seeing has to do with survival, using seeing as a tool, porthole on reality. Same with hearing and smelling and tasting and touching. This mindfulness practice is radically and revolutionarily different, which is to make the phenomenon of seeing the object of awareness. And what about that awareness business? How do you do that? I had a very discreet, very precise experience of consciousness and no consciousness last week when I had a minor surgery that required anesthesia. And so there I was with that lovely anesthesiologist, very kind person. And she's She is a Japanese, she's of Japanese heritage and a Buddhist, so we had some interesting conversation as we were wheeling down the hall. And the IV was in my hand, and then I said, "That's very cold," the refrigerated thing. And then I said, "My tongue's getting pretty weird." And she said, "Not for long." And I said humorously, "Goodbye." And then this nice man was saying my name. And it was so apparent, consciousness vanished. It just vanished. And it came back. How? Oh. Dharma talk, today at 11 a.m. I needed that. But I've had as a practice for many, maybe decades, practicing being awake, being aware the first moment in the morning when consciousness returns. My teacher in Burma, long, long ago, from which that Dana Bull came, asked me each day, did you fall asleep on an in-breath or an out-breath? And did you wake up on an in-breath or an out-breath? And that's possible to determine. Certainly the latter. The first I don't know that I've ever had success with, but noticing am I breathing in or out, because there is a very discrete moment, like when your mind wanders, there's a very specific moment when consciousness winks on. And part of our practice is becoming more and more attentive to those moments, because then we're more awake. We therefore have much greater choice which thoughts to continue with, which impulses to continue with, and so on. So, Mr. Dalton, can we do some movement? For those of you that are new, Jim Dalton will lead some mindful movement now, and then Avi Klepper will do some announcements, and then we'll have a Dharma talk till noon, and then there's tea and coffee and goodies in the living room.
So, thank you for joining me in this mindful movement. I'm going to be here next Saturday from 10 till 2 doing a mindfulness of the body workshop. So you can check that out on the website and sign in. See you for 4 hours on Saturday. It's a lot of time on your free day. You might be interested in landing in this body. When we land in this body, we become aware of sensations in the feet. And just by turning, we can kind of pour all the liquid in our body, all the water into one side, and turn and pour it into the other. This notion that all of the sensations are activated and engaging where we pour our attention. It's sort of like walking, but we're not getting anywhere. But we're alternating engagement with one foot, then the other. But the foot is not a thing. It's connected to a whole series of processes. They come up the leg, into the hip, into the shoulder. We can reach out, aware of people around us. I don't know what's in my throat, but anyway, I guess we can welcome it here too. Pardon me. So, let's sink and lift the arms and notice the sensations in the shoulders, in the wrists, in the elbows, if I do it sideways, you can see it's sort of like an oval. I'm extending my arms and then bending my elbows, and the heel of the hand kind of leads down, and the wrist leads up. There's millions of little sensations, but we put a label on it and we say, this is lifting water, as if we were standing next to a creek and drawing the water out of the creek with the upswing and pouring the water into our legs, pouring the energy into our legs. So we're engaging with this sea of chi that's all around us, as if it were a creek flowing next to us. So we'll do that a little bit more, feeling the softness in the shoulders, the strength in the legs. We come up, and at a certain point, we relax down, but not collapse, just relax down. Again, a whole series of muscles and nerves engage in order to control a flowing, watery kind of movement. Then we get a little more complicated and reach across, focus on the palm of the hand, let the other palm face the earth, and then imagine that there's a cloud drifting across the sky. And again, the wrist leads. Then we switch. New hand appears in front of our gaze and moves across the sky while the shadow of the cloud moves across the earth. So although our attention is focused in one way, it's also open to the earth and the shadow below without a focus. Attention can be soft or it can be very precise. And sometimes it feels like it's both at the same time. I haven't figured that one out yet. I think it's also possible that it's switching back and forth really fast. There's a lightning speed to awareness that is amazingly fast compared to thinking or choosing to focus. So this is called cloud hands, and that's called Christine. Okay. So that's the second form in a 5-part form that the Harvard Medical School did to test the benefits of Tai Chi movements. And another movement is, we'll move towards the street side at maybe a 45-degree angle. So one foot is lined up with the axis of the room, and the other foot is 45 degrees towards the whichever side. You can do either side. And push, and then just relax. But the pushing is not coming from the hands. It's coming from the center of gravity up through the spine and through the arms and out the palms of the hands. So again, we don't have things at the end of our arm. We have processes. It's the last stage of a process of intending to move the center of gravity, and then it transfers through the spine, through the shoulders, through the arms, out the palms of the hands. So the palms are now swimming in this ocean of chi, not cheese. Somebody asked me one Sunday, why are we swimming in cheese? It's chi. But you can feel the engagement in the back leg stabilizing and then releasing into the front leg, and the back leg relaxes some. Feel the difference in the engagement of each leg. At each moment, it's a different proportion. Maybe 80 in the front, and then less and less and less until it's about 80% in the back. Now let's move towards the tree side of the building and step. Feeling the softness in the wrists, the softness in the shoulders and the elbows. And what the Harvard protocol proved after a long period of time was that a lot of chronic illness, which is considered based on a lot of stress in our lives, a lot of chronic illness, the symptoms can be reduced by learning to relax in these round movements. The sensation of round, relaxed movement reduces stress to the point of reducing the need for medication, and all kinds of positive benefits came from these simple Tai Chi forms. Okay, the next one is a little more complicated. It's stepping, let's say, to the tree side with that hand up, the right hand, and then pulling down the left side. So feel what's happening with the hips. The hips are kind of oriented over here, and then they're twisting. So as we're shifting the weight, we're twisting the hips. As we're moving the arms, the wrists are twisting. It's called roll back. So the tension we hold in our hips and lower spine can be softened, can reduce pain. There's all sorts of surprising results from these simple movements repeated on a regular basis. 10 minutes a day is really all that's needed. They did it for longer, but they did it lots of different intervals. All right, let's move to the other side. If we step out with the left foot, the left hand is up. We press a balloon against it and then bring it over and drop it down the right side. The idea of the balloon is that you're maintaining a shape in your hands, but you're not stressing into a tight fist. You're just holding a balloon. So everything about it suggests release and relaxation, but there's also engagement. You have to be aware of where the center of gravity is. When you're back, it's over the right foot. Then the center of gravity turns and twists over here to the left. Okay, another one to the right. We'll take the right hand and face it towards the earth and brush across the knee as we push with the left. Now, the attention is sustaining a movement that's on the left side and never crosses the midline. But then there's another movement for the right hand that never stays on the same side. It keeps changing. I'm on the left, I'm on the right, I come back to the left. So somehow the awareness is able to coordinate all of this at one time. Stepping left, the left palm is down, it sweeps across the knee, and the right hand pushes forward. The hips relax, the knees relax, the feet engage, but then they release and let the other side take it. So we've just done a whole bunch to release the stress in our lives. And if we did that 10 minutes a day, it'd change your whole attitude. Open to the side and bring all this experience together into one circle of well-being. Every atom in the body refreshed and released and re-energized. And you can come next Saturday and there's more. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Sangha. My name is Avi. I'm community coordinator here, and we are about to enact the very ancient ritual of announcements. Kirsten, do you have any volunteer stuff? Just what? The kids, okay. So just a weekly volunteer need that we have is for people to sign up on the website to volunteer in the classroom for our children's program every Sunday. It really is a wonderful way to further our community going forward into the future and helping with the next generation of sitters who will at some point maybe be here among us. Even if you don't have kids yourself, it's really a wonderful way to be part of community. We can use 1 to 2 people every week. Information is on the homepage of the website. Please consider doing that. And please consider, if you want to become more engaged in this community, helping keep this place feeling like a good place to be is a wonderful way to become engaged in this community and to really feel like you are a part of Sangha. And you can see Kirsten about that. You can also sign up on the website. There's all kinds of things that we need done and all kinds of ways in which we can use your talents and your interests and your abilities. So we would really appreciate that. Other things that are coming up. On Tuesday, June 11th, we have our NVC practice group with Doyle and Kirsten. That's limited to people who have some basics in NVC class. And if you have questions, Kirsten would be happy to answer them later on. On Saturday, June 15th, we've got our Buddhist movie night, The Matrix, one of my favorites. It is a Buddhist movie. Apparently that was buried in all the reviews that originally came out. Then also Saturday, June 15th, during the day, Jim has his monthly Qigong retreat. If you loved what he was doing for 10 minutes, you'll love what he does for 4 hours. It's really wonderful. On Saturday, July 6th, we have our first Saturday retreat. We do these on the first Saturday of every month, day-long retreat with different teachers. And I think it might be Gary who's coming up for this next rotation. Information will be on the website shortly. Then on Sunday, July 7th, we have our newcomer orientation session, which really anyone can attend. If you have been here for a while and you're curious sort of like about the underlying philosophy of this place and how it works, please join us. Robert will explain all. Then we've got 2 Engaging the Dharma events that are coming up. On Wednesday the 19th, we have a special planning session for Engaging the Dharma. Engaging the Dharma is our Sangha-wide group that helps us take mindful action out in the community, taking what we've learned on the cushion and bringing it out there. And there's going to be a planning session at Laughing Planet Restaurant on Woodstock. Details are on the homepage. If you have thought about this and you haven't done it before and you'd like to become involved, all are welcome. New energy is always welcome. So everyone needs to eat dinner. So maybe think about showing up for this meeting on June 19th. Then the next regular meeting of the Engaging the Dharma initiative is going to be on July 7th. First Sunday of the month, July 7th. And that's the regular meeting that we hold here. Then July 7th to 19th, Robert has his Mountain Waters retreat. There are still spaces available. Information is on the website. And then on Sunday, July 14th, next month, we've got our next second Sunday potluck. It just so happens that we have a second Sunday potluck today. So some of you have brought your top secret recipes to share with the Sangha. And if you have not brought any food, you are still bringing something very important, which is yourself. So please join us. We also have Dharma Consults. Dharma Consults enable you to talk with an established practitioner about either a quick on-ramp to developing a practice or to talk about things that have come up in your practice. Jim is available for several of these today for 20 minutes or so. Please see Jim if you'd like to have a Dharma consult today for the next hour, sometime during the next hour. If today does not work, please contact me and I will set you up with one of the teachers. And then finally, in terms of engaging with this place, if you would like to receive notices about events in your inbox, there is a sign-up sheet back there by the double doors. You can put your name and your contact information on it. We would be happy to send you emails and otherwise keep you apprised of what's going on. If you want to, as I said, volunteer or become more engaged in this community, please see Kirsten or me. And I'm glad that you're all here. And I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday. Blessings to you all.
I spoke about this bowl earlier. In 1979, my then wife and I had taken 25 students, Lewis and Clark students, to India for 5 months. We hardly knew each other and were just married, and it was really wild. But one of the things that happened on that trip was that her teacher was a devotee of a famous old monk named Tangpulu Sayadaw. He was a person who at it was either age 8 or 12, I think it was 12, went into a cave and remained there for the next 28 years. He was fed by the local townspeople. And when he emerged, he was known as Tangpulu, which was the location. Sayadaw means wise elder. And he spent the rest of his life teaching. And we went to do novice ordination for a week. We could get into Burma, now Myanmar, for 1 week. And we did, and we shaved our heads and got to watch him do his thing. His monastery was up country in about 300 miles north of Rangoon, but he came down each year and did a 3-month residence in a temporary monastery in Rangoon. And so we were there for that. But his life was this. He got up in the morning with the rest of us around 5, and then there was some chanting. And then the monks and nuns went out on alms round. We walked in in bare feet on the streets of Rangoon with people put all their carpets from their shops out on the ground we walked on. And by the time we came back from that, he was meeting with the people who had lined up, the people of Rangoon had lined up, and he was meeting with them, and he met with them. A couple would come in, or a family, or a single person, and the person would come in and he would talk to them, and they would cry and so on. And then they would leave, and then the next one would come in. And then he had lunch, which was about an hour before the sun reaches the zenith. And then about an hour later or less, he was back in his spot, and he met with people till 9 o'clock at night. 7 days a week for 3 months in Rangoon. He was just service. It was quite an amazing experience to witness him. And this was my bowl that I got to walk through the streets of Rangoon with, and people came and put food in. And when I left, he sent this with me and my monk's robes, which was very unusual. Usually you turn them in. And it's become a symbol here at PIMC. And it's the symbol of dana, of the practice of generosity. And it's actually a transformer. If you put in here a check or cash, it will convert it into a Dharma center. It converts it into gas and heat and electricity and stipends for this teaching staff and so on. So I encourage you to think about the importance of PIMC to you. And more will be coming in the next few weeks, which reminds me, Cricket, let's talk before you leave if I can. That with Gregory Malouf, one of our teachers, he's now a half-time manager here at PIMC, and we need to increase our budget by about 15%. And so we're asking you, anyone who wants to really support the place, to think about if you're doing already a monthly donation, if you could increase it some. And for those of you who are here just one time or another, you can also put dana in here, dana meaning the practice of generosity, and there's a wood box back there, which is also a great place to participate in that. And the way to belong to PIMC is to participate. We, by design, way back at the beginning when we incorporated, we created a non-membership organization because so many people had been burned by religious organizations saying you've got to join. But you can't join, but you can participate completely. You can also do volunteer work that Kirsten can help hook you up with. And of course, most important of all is do your practice. That's what the place is really about. So that's a little talk on the bowl, the monk's bowl. My stepdaughter, Nina, graduates now. Last night was her graduation party, and I was talking with one of the men, the father of the other person that she was sharing her party with, and we were reminiscing about poetry and men's conferences in the woods in Mendocino, and men drumming and singing and dancing and sharing deeply with each other. And I realized I haven't shared poetry very often or much lately, so I thought I would share a few poems with you this morning. So I invite you to listen with your heart. This is Hafiz, 15th century Sufi mystic. You carry all the ingredients to turn your life into a nightmare. Don't mix them. You have all the genius to build a swing in your backyard for God. That sounds like a hell of a lot more fun. Let's start laughing, drawing blueprints, gathering our talented friends. I will help you with my divine lyre and my drum. Hafiz will sing 1,000 words you can take into your own hands, like golden saws, silver hammers, polished teakwood, strong silk rope. You carry all the ingredients to turn your existence into joy. Mix them. Mix them. As Robert Bly said, well, now we have the lay of the land. Let's listen to the poem. You carry all the ingredients to turn your life into a nightmare. Don't mix them. You have all the genius to build a swing in your backyard for God, for the divine, for spirit, for awakening. That sounds like a hell of a lot more fun. Let's start laughing, drawing blueprints, gathering our talented friends. I will help you with my divine lyre and my drum. Hafiz will sing 1,000 words you can take into your own hands, like golden saws, silver hammers, polished teakwood, strong silk rope. You carry all the ingredients to turn your existence into joy. Mix them. Mix them. I, of course, see Buddhist lists with the 7 enlightenment factors. Mix them. Mindfulness, curiosity, energy, joy, delight, concentration, tranquility, equanimity. Those are on the test. This poem has a particular place in my heart. Right here on this spot, at my wedding 7 or 8 years ago, Jen, my wife, and I had shared all the rest of the wedding of all the other stuff we were going to say, but I had this in my pocket, and at the end of the wedding, I knelt and shared this with her. It happens all the time in heaven. And someday it will begin to happen again here on earth, that men and women who give each other light often will get down on their knees and with tears in their eyes, will sincerely speak, saying, "My dear, how can I be more loving to you? How can I be more kind?" Of course, it doesn't have to be any particular gender or even that kind of relationship. It happens all the time in heaven, and someday it will happen again here on earth, that people who give each other light often will get down on their knees and with tears in their eyes will sincerely speak, saying, "My dear, how can I be more loving to you? How can I be more kind?" The Dalai Lama says often, "My religion is kindness." So from the devotional side of things, the bhakti, the devotional practice, another Sufi poem. This is Hafiz. No, Rumi. One night a man was crying, "Allah, Allah." His lips grew sweet with the praising until a cynic said, "So I've heard you calling out, but have you ever gotten any response?" The man had no answer for that. He quit praying and fell into a confused sleep. He dreamed he saw Khadir, the guide of souls, in a thick green foliage. "Why did you stop praising?" "Because I never heard anything back." This longing you express is the return message. The grief you cry out from draws you toward union. Your pure sadness that wants help is the secret cup. Listen to the moan of a dog for its master. That whining is the connection. There are love dogs no one knows the names of. Give your life to be one of them. Phew. One night a man was crying. One night a woman was crying. Allah, Allah. Her lips grew sweet with the praising until a cynic said, so I've heard you calling out, but have you ever gotten any response? The woman had no answer for that. She quit praying and fell into a confused sleep. She dreamed and saw Khadir, the guide of souls, in the thick green foliage. Why did you stop praising? Because I've never heard anything back. This longing you express is the return message. The grief you cry out from draws you toward union. Your pure sadness that wants help is the secret cup. Listen to the moan of a dog for its master. That whining is the connection. There are love dogs no one knows the names of. Give your life to be one of them. And last but not least, this being human is a guest house. Every morning there's a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. This being human, is a guest house. Every morning there is a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. She may be clearing you out for some new delight. That dark thought, that shame, that malice, that anxiety, that depression, that fearfulness, that sickness. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Hello to those of you joining us out on the internet and in the choir loft. Thank you for being here today and whenever you watch this. I often have a chance to speak with people about meditation, and happened twice at the party last night. And There's something that I always say, and those of you that have ever been to one of the introductory sessions, or even in here, I think it's, well, I say it all the time, and it goes like this. I usually preface it with, what I'm about to say is probably the most important thing that I'm going to say about meditation, to kind of wake us all up. And it's this. What is your underlying intention or hope as you do your meditation? Is the intention to get... Right, last week I had this very spacious, relaxed, heavenly experience, and I want to have that again. Right? I want this damn anxious mind to stop, or I want this feeling of depression to be gone, or this fear that I have about the planetary climate thing, or the current political circumstance. I just want peace. And that's what a nice thing. And I love it when this mind goes to that. But is that a skillful, unconscious ambition? I don't think so. Because what that means then is that one fails miserably. And so perhaps, and I think for sure, better, more skillful aspiration is, I want to meditate and really face into what's happening in this present moment and be able to accept it exactly as it is. And I'd like to be able to do that in such a radical fashion that I don't suffer because of it anymore, that I'll still have the pain of the circumstance, but the extra arrow, the Buddha spoke about the 2 arrows. The first arrow is the actual event, the birth, sickness, old age, decay, death, having experiences you don't want to have, not having experiences you do want to have, being with people you don't want to be with, not being with person or persons you do want to be with, which happens, of course, all day, right? So that's the first arrow. But the second arrow is, I don't want it to be like this. I want reality to be different. I want there to be more pleasure, less pain. And since this present moment really isn't acceptable, I want to become something different. So a meditative practice which is determined to create more pleasure and get rid of the pain, it's a war. As opposed to a meditative practice that says, even if there are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, treat each guest honorably. They may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. And it's a challenge. Imagine this. Be grateful for whoever comes. Be grateful for whatever experience comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So how to practice in that way? The Thai forest tradition from Ajahn Chah has this very simple saying: whenever you want your meditation practice to be in perfect balance, remember these words. This moment is like this. It's like this. This is the mood that's present right now. This is the illness that's present right now. This is the sense of tremendous health and well-being. This is the joy that's right now. It really is like this. So I invite you in this very nowness, become aware of the mood that's coloring consciousness. Mood is a little nebulous, but it's something we really can observe directly. In the extremes, there could be depression, restlessness, agitation, anxiety, or bliss or delight or tremendous sense of well-being. And then there's everything in between. Mood. And normally we don't assume the position of witnessing mood. We usually think we are mood. I am my mood. I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm happy, I'm... thinking. What would be a useful thought to think? Maybe hearing, pleasant sound, hearing. How about this? Let's try the experiment. Please think a small piece of this. Think about something that you're afraid is going to happen in the future. Don't get lost. but just as though you were telling the story of this, oh no, this might happen and that might happen. And notice the thoughts as thoughts. You might notice there's a thought and then there's an emotional reaction to the thought, or maybe even fear. I can't have that thought because that would set up. And then come back and land in your body and in your breath. And notice that that's a thought. That future thing is a thought. Just making sense as an experience? One of the insights that we have in practice is that thoughts think themselves into being. But this having thought as a meditation object, as an experimental meditation object, allows us that when thoughts are rampant, to don't necessarily use the breath as a meditation object, but turn toward the thinking function and notice thoughts. I had a quintessential experience, an important experience of my lifetime. Actually, many of you have probably heard it. Certainly if you've been on retreat with me, you have. It was a long time ago, and a 17-year marriage was ending, and it wasn't my idea. And I was terrified. I didn't want it, and totally freaked out. And it actually took more than 4 days for me to actually hear that it was actually what she meant to do. I kept presuming it was just another something passing. But then this crazed, thinking of what's emerging. This crazed part of myself was freaked. And so I got the kids to bed, and I went outside. There was a cedar tree, a big cedar tree that I had meditated under many times. And I went to my spot under the cedar tree and got landed in. And then I was going to use my breath, and this tumult was happening. Emotions and just... And I managed to be with my breath for maybe 2 breaths. And then gone for a long time, maybe half an hour. Just anguish. And then somehow, utterly mysteriously, out of nowhere came, boink, awareness. And it stopped. The tumult stopped. And this, that which I take to be me, made a comment like, wow, the Buddha was right. This thing's really out of control. Gone. And gone for another 20 minutes or half an hour. And then, wow, where's myself in this thing? It's crazy. And a few more of those, and then the sun came up. And that happened for several nights. Now, one could say that was really not successful meditation practice, but actually it was a remarkable example of very fine meditation, because in the midst of that anguish, it would have been so easy, predictable to go get intoxicated some way or another, or to be reading or watching TV or distracting. But what I did, with the strength of those years and years of practice already, was to go and sit in the middle of it and watch the reality of the circumstance, which was this multiple hindrance attack. Right? There was desire for pleasure, there was resistance to the pain of it, there was restlessness and agitation through the roof, there was no sloth and torpor, and there was also lots of doubt. Doubt in myself. I mean, I must not be practicing correctly if this is what the mind is doing. But in fact, that's what the mind was doing. It was like this. So, what's the underlying, when you go to your meditation seat, what's your underlying intention? Is it to calm it all down, which is not a bad thing, to get some concentration? But does it also have a willingness to experience this is the moment that is, and this is how the mind, this is the mood that's present now, these are the thoughts that are present now, this is the degree of concentration or not that's present now? Sickness. I know several people who are dealing with really severe illness right now. I think that's part of getting older, I think, and also part of certain roles. We have the privilege of knowing people who are sick. People often say, well, I couldn't meditate because I had a cold. Right? Or I couldn't meditate because there was too much pain. Or I couldn't meditate because this is a funny one, I couldn't meditate because my nose was stuffy. Because since my meditation object, some people practice with the sensations around the nostrils. I couldn't practice because I was stuffy-nosed. That's kind of missing the point. Again, a long time ago, I went on a retreat with Jack Cornfield. And it was in California, somewhere on the coast. And I was camping. And I had a bad fever, and I couldn't go to the Dharma hall. And I kept thinking, oh, I'm missing the retreat. I'm not getting. And then it occurred to me after several days, I'm not missing the retreat. This is the retreat. They're having a vacation. Those people in the Dharma hall that are sitting and walking, and they're feeling fine. What I'm having the opportunity to turn toward is, this is what fever is like. There's delirium here. This is fever. And this is what cold sweating is like. And because that's such an integral part of life. So, an advice in that one, then the next time you're homesick, be grateful for the short retreat, hopefully short, but be grateful for the retreat you're having. You don't have to distract and do work, and hopefully somebody can take care of the kids, now that's a challenge, right? Being homesick with small children. And then there's chronic illness. What do we do with chronic pain? Huge challenges to our capacity to be present. So, this being human is a guest house. Every morning there's a new arrival. What arrived for you this morning? A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. That's kind of a little too bright, isn't it? Welcome. Oh, great! I feel crappy today. I don't do that myself, but it could be. Well, this is what is. It's like this today. I know in my early 20s, when I ran into the Dharma, the fact of dukkha, the fact of suffering, was not very appealing to me. And I really thought that someday I would find the right partner and the right job and everything, and we'd also end suffering in the world. We'd end war, and I had just a little bit of idealism. But that there would come a time when everything would be really okay. And that's not been the case for me. But welcome and entertain them all. At least be present for them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. I had a long period of my life, most of my life actually, up until around 10 years ago, when I had a lot of depression. Fortunately, that's really moved on. But it's hard to treat depression honorably, right? It's like, you're here, I will experience you fully. I will look at what the symptoms of depression are. Or here I am, I have some of us, probably somebody in this room, here I am with this heavy-duty bipolar disorder that I'm working with, which is, right out of the biochemistry. And how do I treat that honorably? How do I pay attention to it closely enough that I realize, well, I really do have to take medication for this. Thank goodness we have this. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Everything that comes is an invitation for us to realize how utterly impersonal our lives are. So, what do you think? Happy Sunday? Ah, yes. So, I'm inviting your lessons about this, or anything you'd like to share or add to this, about accepting things as they are and finding the joy therein. Please, can you take the mic back? And please say your name, okay, before you speak.
Hi, I'm Teresa. I actually took that literally, the poem that you read. I just, between the Qigong and you coming up, I had checked my phone because it was vibrating like off the ground. And a friend of mine who is dealing with bipolar is apparently quit their job, living in a motel. And my first instinct is to try and take responsibility for that. So your feedback would be appreciated.
You have a friend who has a bipolar diagnosis, you think?
Haven't,
And they're living in a...
they've just left their home and now are living in a motel.
Uh-huh.
So, and quit the job, and
Ah.
so I just got this news.
And you'd like to volunteer to be responsible.
That's my gut reaction, right? So I'm like, okay, caregiver, back off. But,
Uh-huh. Well, maybe there is some place for some caregiving and presence in their life.
what about alternatives?
What?
I'm thinking of the poem to invite them in, and then I'm like, yeah, but I really don't want to do that.
Oh, I see. I believe the poem is about all the internal states.
I'll take that.
And that it's that the advice to accept everything exactly as it is has to do with the internal. And sometimes external things we have to act. You see someone about to abuse a child or another person, and you may have to risk your life. It's not, oh well, that's how life is. They're getting beaten up. So, and then in this instance, you have a choice. How much can you be helpful and useful, and when is it impossible, and when do we just have to let go?
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, that's a hard one. I'm a parent, and I know there are things that happen with one's children that, at first we can be so protective and we control everything they eat, and then they get to be grown-ups, and sometimes they make really bad choices. And bad things happen. Or they get sick, and the best you can do is sit at their bedside in the hospital, and there's nothing you can do. But then what can one do? The inner work is to suffer less in that context, because this is the nature of things. Yeah. I have discovered it doesn't always work to invite everyone in. And sometimes the actual saying of no, I can't, I can't, or I'm choosing not to participate now, that's heavy. Some of you might have experienced something like that in your families or your family of origin.
Hi, my name's Jessica, and just in response to that, I think one of the practices, because we've had both family and friends who've struggled with some very severe mental health issues, and part of where, at least in our response, whatever we're choosing to do, depending on where life is with us at that point, is to try and remember to always preface it, I love you dearly, or right now, here's what I can do. But always, I love you dearly, so that they hear that the love is there, and whether or not they agree with what we're making as a choice, it kind of causes us to really think, I love you dearly, and where does that take me right now in my response?
I worked for several years in one, two. I think I spoke of this very recently on a Sunday, that I was part of several drug and alcohol interventions. And in that, the very skilled intervenor gathered the family together, and then representatives of the person's work and so on, and we were all trained, or they were really trained. I was really a witness. They were trained to say, "I love you, and this is what I've seen. This happened last week, and this happened, and this happened, and if you don't go into treatment, I'm filing for divorce, or I'm going for sole custody, or you're never going to work as it was mostly doctors in the treatment program, or you're never going to practice medicine again. You're going for 3 months of treatment, and you don't have a choice." And that's so loving, right? It's the utter love of someone who's willing to say, "I'll sacrifice my relationship with you if you continue to do this very destructive behavior." And that's so gut-wrenching and difficult, because you feel so guilty, and I'm a bad person, and I really should give this person another $5,000 that they're going to use on drugs. Maybe this time they won't. So there are some really difficult circumstances in our lives. Have you noticed? Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Annie, and when I think about that quote or poem, I think a lot about self-compassion, and so inviting those feelings in and responding to yourself the way you would respond to a friend. And so, for example, I had a really difficult situation at work that was really painful, and so I kind of took a moment to just say, like, I'm experiencing pain right now, and I need compassion, I need comfort, I need, maybe a walk, maybe to play with my dog for a little bit. What do I need? And by inviting that in, it was kind of me avoiding that second arrow that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And as a result of that experience, I had a lot of coworkers come up to me and provide support, and I feel like I really built connections between them. And so it kind of, that experience cleared me out, and then I was able to accept all this love and connection that maybe those conversations wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gone through this painful thing. So, yeah.
Thank you. How beautiful. Back behind.
Hello, Peter. From the last stanza in the poem, what is the beyond?
What do you think it is?
That's the mystery, isn't it?
I think that's the good word.
Seems like a stimulating theme for a Buddhist meditation group.
Right.
Is it truly beyond? Or is it only what's here?
I would vote for the last. I think this is beyond. That to be fully here is to be awake. That the task of awakening is to fully embrace the present moment. It's not about going somewhere else. It's not about achieving the capacity to go into an altered state and not be here. The altered trait, I think, is radical presence.
That seems to be true, and yet there seems to be sort of an abiding mystery too, isn't there?
Yeah.
Things appear, they emerge. Naturally, the tendency of the mind is to say, where are they emerging from?
Yeah.
Is it the beyond? So, I don't know.
I
There's
don't
no answer to this.
I don't suppose there's an answer, no. But my experience is, I actually considered talking of that this morning. It's pretty weird how things keep. The Tibetans speak about the magical display in consciousness. That all there is this moment and this display. And it's always just this. Like in a few seconds or minutes, the microphone will go to someone else, and then this interaction will be gone. And then that one will be up. I don't know, I find it very remarkable how nothing really lasts at all. It's just second by second, less than that.
Seems like the most difficult questions, you can hardly even make a question out of it. What is time? Nobody that I've ever heard has answered that clearly.
Time is something one works for years to teach children to pay attention to. And it's so abstract, but we take it as a real thing. Because all there is now.
We base upon it, and yet it may not even exist.
Exactly. Yeah. It's one of the things I hated most about I was a stay-at-home dad a lot, and it's like, hurry up and stop playing because we have to get somewhere. It's like, so strange.
This concept of the second arrow, does the second arrow really map to the psychological concept of negative self-talk? Is that really what it's talking about, or is it more elaborate than that?
Simpler and deeper. Because there simply is back to the proper room. Ha-ha. One of these arrows I very frighteningly found in the backyard, about 2 inches into the ground, when we first bought the building. So I don't know where it came from, but no one was there at the time. So first arrow, birth, sickness, old age, decay, death, having experiences that are you don't want, not having experiences you do want, being with people you don't want, not being with person or persons you do want. And then the second one, which was the Buddha discovered this. Tanha, thirst, craving. One of the steps in the 12 steps of dependent origination. Contact, feeling, unpleasant, pleasant, and so on. This is an intrinsic biological organisms moving toward pleasure, moving away from pain. Moving away from pain. Has nothing to do with thinking. Thinking can flourish it, but it's unpleasant, want less. Pleasant, want more. And then we humans add in this, the impulse, the becoming, the impulse to become something different, to move into a future that doesn't have this experience. So thinking is certainly a part of it, and negative self-talk is a part of it. But it's more organismic, and then can get flourished with our personality and our training. Is that making sense? I know it's funny to remember this. Both of my children grew up. I met my mother-in-law and the kid's mother at the same moment, and they came as a package. And it was great. The mother-in-law and I remained friends until she died. Close friends, lovely friends. And she really liked heating with a wood stove. Anyway, so we installed a really nice Fisher wood stove in her downstairs apartment that I built. And with each of the children, we set up an encounter with the stove that was intentional. And we had a very, very quiet fire in the stove, and we let the kid wander around and then touch the stove. And there was that moment of, ah! And then the crying and so on. And there was no longer any problem with the stove, because as soon as that warmth started coming in the face, but it was very interesting to watch, and you wouldn't have to do it that way. That if your hand touches something hot, that coming back doesn't require any thinking. right? Getting away from the unpleasant is really very deep in us. And it has to be, or we wouldn't have survived. And similarly, moving toward the pleasant. One of the problems with sugar, right, which we hit for most of the vast majority of our time as humans, we didn't have much sugar. It was hard to come by. Bees, but there wasn't, C and H cane sugar in the closet. But the human taste goes for it. We like that because it was so, quote, good for us in small doses, useful. So this liking and disliking is really deep in us. Anything else before the kids come into the chute? These are very fancy chopsticks. You could really... Can I have a taste of that, honey? So I hope this is practical for you, not just an idea, but what happens next today? And it could be very pleasant, it could be quite unpleasant. We never know. We have no idea what's going to happen before bedtime. So to have in mind, I want to work with accepting whatever the experience is, so that I can actually be present in it rather than having to go off into some kind of trance.
Hi, I'm Connie. So I'm finding that acceptance, I'm doing a lot more of it in my life, but I have some sadness around purpose.
Around?
Purpose.
Ah.
So I'm struggling with, okay, so if I'm accepting everything, is that the last thing I need to accept is that I have no purpose? Or anyway, I'm wondering what the comment is on that.
Purpose. My mind immediately flashed to one of my teachers, Matt Flickstein, who said, life is neither meaningful nor meaningless, it just is. And one could perhaps include that in purpose, that life is neither purpose-filled nor purposeless, it just is. Though we do like to have a sense of I'm doing something important and I'm moving toward. But then you see how that falls apart sometimes, right? Depending upon the inner state. One day I can feel so purpose-driven, and the next day I kind of, what am I doing, right? Because it's an idea. Purpose is an idea. Any help? Yeah. Oh, we have a purpose. We have something we've darn well better do. So thank you all for coming and for listening, and I hope this is helpful. And please let's make a big circle and welcome the kids in. Hi, Mickey. Well, the kids are gathering. Probably Avi mentioned this when I was in with the kids, but there's still a few spaces in the Nelson, BC retreat starting in July. 12 days to practice. And if you can come, do. Oh. Anybody out in the outer circle who'd like to be in the inner circle where it's more fun? Where you get to blow out the candle? Well, may I hold your hand? Thank you. Or a finger? There we go. A pinky. No, thanks. Can I hold your hand? Do you mind if I hold your dad's hand? Oh, there, we'll share it. All right. Nope. So, we have hands. How wonderful. Let's give the hand to our right a little squeeze and wish this person well. May you be happy. May all the blessings possible in the world and universe come to you. And the hand on your left, giving that a little squeeze, may you be happy as well. May you know happiness and the causes of happiness, suffering and the causes of suffering, and make good use of that wisdom. And so around our circles, hand to hand and heart to heart, may all beings everywhere share in the merits of this practice. Let's call to our hearts and memories our teachers and mentors, these giants on whose shoulders we stand. And may our love touch the hearts of those in powerful positions, of those in the weakest of most vulnerable positions, those being born, those dying. May we remember our interconnectedness with all beings. All right. The two of you? Yay. You ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3.
May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you. Beautifully done. And now, does everyone have a wish? You got a wish? You have a wish? Let's think of a wish. All right, everybody, how about in the outer circle? We all get to help. And at home, taking a giant deep breath in. So breathing in. 1, 2, 3, blow. Yes! Wonderful. Thank you, dear friends. Thank you. Well, see you soon.